What advice do you have for this lady? Tell us what was going on right here.
Oh my
And
gosh.
what advice do you have for her?
Wow. So I was on my way to my second surgery. I just got off the phone with the doctor's office to schedule my second surgery. And I took this selfie. I don't know why I took that selfie, child. But I believe that there was no cure to fibroids. You were the only person on God's green earth that told me that I could heal from fibroids, that I could heal from high blood pressure. I didn't believe that was possible. So I think that majority of what we're going through and the crisis that we're going through in the US is like people are identifying themselves and adopting false narratives as their truth.
With Jennifer, I want to talk about how some of the challenges and the stress showed up and materialized in medical conditions in her body. So Jennifer said you bringing up old stuff. What was going on with you in 2021 when we started working together?
And I love telling this story because, and it's like old stuff, but I do love telling the story because it is insane. Like the transformation is insane. And so I was just tired and I wanted change. And I had 4 health conditions. I had fibroids, endometriosis, high blood pressure, and speech impediment. So I used to stutter. And so I had all of that going on, but I wanted to figure out how to make more money, how to figure out how to accelerate in my career. I wasn't necessarily looking at my personal life. And you noticed it right away. You were like, why are we talking about a job where you're sick? And my circumstance was generational. Almost every woman in my family had a hysterectomy after having fibroids. And so you're like, you are going through all of these challenges in your family. Let's fix that first. And I didn't have a belief. So like when you talked about like the woman who said she didn't believe in what was possible, I didn't believe in what was possible. I didn't have any belief in anything in myself. And I was just tired and didn't necessarily know what to do in that situation, but I covered it up. And tried to normalize health conditions. And there's like absolutely no way that you can normalize health conditions. So that's where I was.
What's funny with you, and Kathy, I always say my memory is like a steel trap. He was like, ain't nothing wrong with me. Let's just talk about my job. I was like, ma'am, there's no way you can have a normal childhood with all that stuff that's going on today. And you were like, no, ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm like, I can't leave you out here in these streets by yourself. Come on over here and work with us and, give us 4 months and your tongue will relax and your uterus is going to relax and all the other kind of stuff is going to go away. So what was your trauma default? Your trauma default is, what is your default response to stress? What story are you going back to in your past that's creating some of the medical conditions that you have today? What story are you attaching from your past that's going on with some of the things that are how you're showing up today at work? It has a lot to do with how we show up at work, in our relationships, in our family, in dynamics, and in our health, because there's only so long that we can try to smother the things that are really going on. And at a certain point, Jennifer, the chickens come to roost. So what was your trauma default?
So I didn't believe that I was good enough. That was my trauma default. When you come down to it, like I had extreme imposter syndrome. And so when it was time for me to take action, I wouldn't, because I didn't believe that I was worthy. I didn't even believe in what I wanted. Like I didn't know what I wanted. So I was just stuck in this place and I couldn't go forward, but I was moving backwards. And that was like the root of it. And it was like normalized anxiety and all of these things that was just going on in my life that I just felt like was out of my control. And I felt like I couldn't take control. But it had a lot to do with the stories that I was telling myself. The majority of the experiences that we have in this life are because of what we tell ourselves. And I had like 18, 20 different narratives in my head at the time about who I should be, what I should do, all of that. So I was just in the middle of like a crisis and didn't really know anything about who I was and who I wanted to be. And what your program did was allow me to identify that, was just to be still and just identify who I was, have like an entirely new identity, who I was, what did I want it to be, what did I want, and I just had to start from there. That was my trauma default, just not believing that I was good enough for anything.
you was in a crisis and you didn't know. No idea. It was just, I don't know if it's called denial. I'd be like, sis, you're going to die. And they'd be like, oh, I'm going to be all right. I'm like, no, you're not okay. Go ahead.
It's just more or less like we talked about before, just like normalizing and going through like your day-to-day life, believing these things about you. I believe that there was no cure to fibroids. You were the only person on God's green earth that told me that I could heal from fibroids, that I could heal from high blood pressure. I didn't believe that was possible. So I think that majority of what we're going through and the crisis that we're going through in the US is like people are identifying themselves and adopting false narratives as their truth. And that doesn't have to be your truth, doesn't have to be what your life should be or how you identify your life as. And so that was my problem. And so we had to break those narratives and change those narratives of what I thought about myself. We had to break the narratives of other people. And a lot of it was just the expectations of other people and all this pressure that I put on myself to be more for other people, and had to break the yoke of expectations because I kept hearing voices in my head of other people of telling me like what surgeon to pick for my surgeries. When should I have children? All of these things. And I had to silence the noise and I had to quiet it down because the world was just too loud at that point.
Well, I think the root of you breaking the expectations of other people is you are spoiled to the 10th power, rotten. You being the apple of your mom's eye was stressful.
Absolutely.
I want to expand that, right? Because when people talk about trauma, it wasn't the trauma of, oh, you grew up without, or you didn't have this, or, you know, your mama threw you into the mud. It's like, no, you were the apple of her eye. How did that show up in your expectations of what people expected of you? I think that it shaped it. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. It shaped it. It's very hard to design your life around the experiences of other people or what or who other people want you to be. And living up to that expectation is impossible because you're not necessarily aligning to what you want to do, what is your highest joy or what is your happiness. You're living for other people and allowing and getting caught up in the loop of other people trying to validate you. And you're looking for that validation. Like I'll say all the time in my story, I was addicted to serving because of that like narrative, and it wasn't necessarily because of any type of adversity between her and I. It was just the fact that like she loved me so much and she wanted to push me, but she wasn't allowing me to be who I wanted to be and identify that for myself. So I got in your program, I didn't know who I was at all. Like, you know, and I think that, you know, I didn't necessarily know what I liked. I didn't know what my passions were. I didn't know what I disliked. So I had to just remember all of these things about me in order to go to the next level of my journey.
You know, I'm thinking about the greatest movie of all time with Eddie Murphy, where he's asking the woman, what do you like? She's like, whatever you like. But that's what you were doing. I'm like, Jenna, what you like? Whatever my mama says I like. Well, so those were the competing voices of what was going on. And how can you be happy if your definition of happiness is based off of what other people told you that should make you happy? What advice do you have? Hold on, because you know I like to bring up old stuff. You ready? What advice do you have for this lady? Tell us what was going on right here.
Oh my gosh.
And what advice do you have for her?
Wow. So I was on my way to my second surgery. I just got off the phone with the doctor's office to schedule my second surgery. And I took this selfie. I don't know why I took that selfie, child, but I would tell her, you know, just number one, bare bones basic, to stop listening to other people and start listening to your inner voice. You know, like I put a post on Instagram, like, don't listen to all these people on Instagram telling you what to do with your life. Like, listen to your own voice. That person is in there beyond the fear, the overthinking, the underthinking, all of that. That person is in there, and you have to sit with yourself, sit with your own thoughts so you can move, so you're able to redirect your mind to the things that you want. And that's what I would tell her, at least first and foremost. Try to believe in what's possible and not for other people. Believe in what's possible for you.
You can heal if you, one, acknowledge that you were stressed out to the max. Like, Y'all, Jennifer was so stressed out. Stress was normal. Jennifer had anxiety. The meter is off the chain. That was her normal. So when I was telling her, she didn't know what I was talking about. I'm like, do you not know? No.
I had no idea.
Like, and so your body is reacting to the stress and then the anxiety that you had no idea. Like, all these things are going on, and is trying to be perfect, is not knowing what makes you happy, and it's doing all these things and not necessarily feeling anything. And so your body starts to erupt in all of these medical conditions. And I saw like some huge percentage, 80% of all autoimmune conditions, which I had one, is all women, but it's from stress, and it's suppressed stress, and it's also repressed stress, but we don't even know that we got it going on. So, and you were like, no, I'm a health advocate. So tell them what I told you that. And then what advice do you have for women who have fibroids?
Yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. You know, you were like, anxiety is so normalizing in your body that like you don't even notice it in your body anymore. It's so normalized. And I remember, and I was like, I sat with myself for a minute, and I'm like, what? I had no idea, because these narratives or these stories that's been drilled in my head since birth, and it was embedded in my DNA. So I didn't know any type of, I didn't necessarily know that I could heal. You was like, you know what, you're going to heal. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with me.
Right. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with me, but I'm gonna join your little program. All right. And I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna focus on no outcome, not gonna have no expectation or anything. I'm just gonna do it. Right. So I did the work, as you say, like the work, just to become more in alignment with who I am, and really to start to define myself for myself. And what does that mean for me? Like, Jennifer, what do you want? What does your life look like, you know, beyond this point? Like, you're able to really sit with yourself and map that out. And I started to do that, but I also started to lean into my habits. I always like to talk about the habits. Like, when I coach women, I talk to women, what kind of habits do you have? Because I didn't believe that I was good enough, my choices, it was like, I wasn't making a choice. I wasn't taking action, or at least positive action or anything. So I had zero habits. So let's start there. So number one is I had to believe in what's possible. So I didn't believe in what's possible. So like Christy said, I believe. So okay, I'm gonna go with that. Number one. Number two, I started getting in touch with me again. Started working out. I started meditating. Meditation will save your life. Like, completely bare bones basic. You know, and then walking for half an hour every single day. And these are habits that I still do to this day. These are things that I still do to this day. I always say that, like, you know, your program is not like a one-off thing, it's a lifestyle, you know, and you really teach us how to develop a new lifestyle of living and being, and not necessarily doing anymore, but what is our way of being. And so this became my way of being. And I walked right into healing. Like, I reversed all 4 health conditions. So and that was a surprise to me. And it took a long time for me to even own that part of my story, because it was insane. There was no way. It's like one day I woke up and I was completely pain-free. I didn't have any, and I didn't have any menstrual cramps, didn't have any headaches, no migraines. Like, I checked my blood pressure one day, normal. And I was in disbelief. I was like, I'm gonna check it again. And I checked it again. And it was normal. And so and then I checked it the next day. It was still normal. And so, so it was more so silencing the noise of other people. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb for 4 months. And then women are like, oh my gosh, you did that? Yes, I did that. Because there comes a point in time where you have to save your own life. And you painted a very difficult picture of me not being here anymore. And as young as I was like, I have to do it. Like, I don't want to die. so this is what I'm going to do in order to be able to free myself from other people. And I did that. And sometimes you have to retrain people on how to treat you. And that's what I did. Like, you know, all heck broke loose when I decided to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I didn't care, because this time was going to be for me, and that was going to be it.
What's interesting and what's hard is to say no to the very people who benefit off your service. So we're serving to our detriment. And then when we have to start to save ourselves, because we're at a critical, very, very, and in 2021, it was critical too. In 2025, it's even more critical for the women who haven't done anything since 2020 to like save your own life, because it's so many RIPs on LinkedIn. It's just insane. It's easier, Jennifer, I think sometimes for some women who are so caught in this narrative, it's easier to die than it is to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
for me, it was the opposite, though, because once I didn't embarked on the journey towards healing my health conditions, even if I didn't have any expectations, that was easier than living where I was. That was easier than just suffering and trying to find a solution to my problem. And that's what really suffering is, not having a solution, not finding a solution. So you have to make the choice today of what you're going to do like in this next phase of our lives. Because I do believe that, you know, with everything changing, and more so, it's really about stepping more into who you are and remembering who you are and operating from a place of that. And if you're not able to do that, then you're going to get left behind. So it's imperative that you do that now. The time is now, not when the conditions are perfect, not when your circumstances get better. You have to make the choice now, because your circumstances get better as you get better.
And I think the bigger part was you trusted that I didn't just want your money. And I ain't saying that there ain't a lot of charlatans out here in these streets and people who consider themselves to be coaches, but I tell people all the day, I don't work for money, but my goal is to save women from themselves. And so a part of these podcasts and everything that I do is just to give you the easy insight. Y'all, she swapped 2 surgeries to just go walk and meditate and get some sleep and do affirmations. So it's easier to get surgery and take time to heal. I wish I had that video of you rolling in that wheelchair looking all raggedy, because you know I would show it. I'm petty. But it's like, it's easier to be in a wheelchair for months and have surgical recovery than it, I wouldn't say it's easier, because you didn't know that you could choose differently was the thing, right? And so if 2 or more people shall touch and agree on anything on this earth, it shall be done unto them. So you didn't understand what I was telling you, but you trusted it. Just like Renee talked about, this lady's kind of interesting because she's trying to push me to do something. She already got my money. Why is she harassing me? It's like, because I want y'all's transformation, because so many of us are dying, or so many of us are sick in easily treatable conditions that are treatable for free. The only thing that's required is your commitment to the habits to save yourself.
Absolutely. That's the only thing you have to do. That's really it. Like that bare bones basic, that like the if you want to create a new story or a new foundation, then yeah, the bare bones basic are the habits that you're able to do. And then you're able to get clear about who you want to be. Then you're able to get clear about what your next chapter is, or and all of that. So but yes, the bare bones basic are the habits. And then once you get the habits, then you're able to get more clear about who you are and who you want to be in this next chapter of your life.
So what advice do you have for leaders, right, who are going? Who would you trust to check in? And here's the thing. My family knew I was going to burn out, and I don't blame my family. You're real nice. I was, aggressive and a little crazy. So it's like, I didn't have anybody that I trusted to pull me off the ledge, because the people who were telling me to slow down didn't have the results that I wanted. And they weren't a model of the peace that I was like, all right, fine. Like, how was that working for you? What advice do you have for women who have high blood pressure, fibroids, autoimmune diseases, or whatever that's going on? What advice do you have for them, Jennifer?
Yeah, so now it's just time to build a new foundation. God can't do a new thing if you're still clinging to the old. And so you have to let those old stories go. You have to let those old narratives go. And once you're able to do that, lean into the habits of just walking every day. And these are like low effort things. Like I was not trying to be in your program to work. Like I was just tired. These are extremely low effort things. Like walking is very low effort. Like meditation, sitting there in silence or a guided meditation is very low effort. Like just working out and taking that time out for you. Taking time out for you is very low effort. Like you don't have to do a lot of work. Like it doesn't require heavy lifting or a whole lot. And so lean into those things and really identify what's next in your life. What is the next chapter in your life? And ask yourself those questions as you are embarking on those habits.
What advice do you have for people who don't believe that anything good can happen for them? Because one of the things that you just said was, God can't do a new thing, i.e., you can't put a new wine in old wine skins. Go ahead. Because we're stuck. It's so many people who are stuck in the quicksand and they're going down, and it's hard to watch because I'm like, man, get up.
Yeah.
And it's easy to blame everybody else. It's easy to look outside of yourself and point all the fingers, but that's not getting you anywhere. And they've been pointing fingers for at least 10 years. And I'm like, that's not moving the needle forward in your life. So how much different is your life today than it was 4 years ago before you took control of your fate?
Oh, absolutely. Like I am very 150% clear who I am and what I want in my life and what my next chapter looks like. And now I'm on the journey of doing it. I've talked to a lot of women leaders and they always talk about, well, I want to find my purpose. I want to know more about my purpose in this life, and thinking that their purpose is outside of them. And no, it's all internal. It's an internal job. Purpose is not who you do, purpose is who you are. So operating in who you are, and you don't have to do something big and something grand in order to help other people. You have to first help yourself. You have to make the choice. You have to make the choice now that I am going to save myself, and then work to help other people. Because I've done it. I was a women's health advocate. But I didn't have like the right story, and I was telling the wrong story, and created an ecosystem of people and of women that were suffering, and didn't necessarily know that I was doing it, but we weren't necessarily leaning into a lot of the solutions that were out there. We were only looking at each other and saying, well, I don't know how to save me. Do you know how to save you? So there comes a point in time where if you have a solution and you have this resource, and if you're looking at this live, do everything that we're asking you to do. And I promise you, your life will be 10 times better. Even like 2 weeks from now, you'll start to look better. You'll start to feel better. And then just be curious about yourself. I'm always looking at myself. I'm always looking at like who I am as a person, because that can sometimes change, and that is okay. And so always look at yourself first and stop pointing the fingers at other people. But you have to decide today. You have to make the choice today that this is what I'm going to do for me and for nobody else.
You were a part of a community that celebrated suffering in a common dysfunction, or I wouldn't say a dysfunction, I would say a health condition that you didn't know was possible to heal. So let me back up off the forehead so the women who got fibroids before they come for me. But it's like you were in a community, because I see so many people that are calling other women in communities to cope together around what I consider to be healable. I didn't want to say manageable, because it's more common. It's searched more times how to cope with depression than it is how to heal it. It's searched more times on Google of how to cope with fibroids than it is how to heal it. Nobody's looking for the healing. Let's talk about reversal. And before we close, I got to have you answer this question. So what I said to Jennifer was, you over here talking about you a health advocate. You ain't sharing no testimony. You sharing your trauma. Don't nobody want to hear all that. How about you create a new story? Now, hit you in the head. I want to know what happened with you in that community when you healed what they normalized.
You going there today? So yeah, so I'm all happy and healed and whole, and I go to this community, and went to some events that they had, and no one wanted to hear me. They were like, okay, like they were just like me. They were just like me, where I was with you on that second phone call, and you were like, you're going to heal. Like, I believe that you're going to heal. And I was like, okay. They were the same way. They was not trying to hear a healing story. They was not trying to hear like a reversal. And then some people did ask questions. Some women did ask questions. And then when I told them, they were like, that doesn't work. Like, I already meditate, I already do this, I already do that. That does not work for me. And I'm like, no, these things actually work, but no one was trying to hear me at that point.
And the reason why I offer that before we close is like, if you're willing to step out on a journey of wholeness, don't look for the very same people to think that it's possible and to support you in that one. Anybody gonna support you going on a different path? Had Jennifer asked those women, should she do something different? Of course, they would have talked her out of it because that was normal. But once she got whole, her wholeness was not accepted by the people who wanted to stay the same. And even if she tells them work out, meditate, they reject it. And I'm not judging them, but I'm just saying, I'm just talking about for the people who stop looking for commonality in places that you're trying to escape. Oh, that was good. Stop looking for commonality in places that when you choose something different, it was more normalized and acceptable for me when I left my career. It would have been more acceptable to my friends for me to be on anti-anxiety medication and have a therapist than it was for me to choose differently in my life. Like, it was not celebrated. Even to this day, they still talking trash. I'm like, it was like 13 years ago. And so if you want to be different because God is calling you to higher, be willing to take the lonely road to your wholeness and get out here and live in your purpose. Flash book right quick, Jennifer. Get Jennifer's book, Release the Pressure, on Amazon today. And so she'll walk you through the steps of how to release your stress and your anxiety. So thank you so much for your time, Jennifer. You're amazing.
Thank you. So are you. You're so amazing too. I just love you.
All right. Thank you.